This video will be especially useful and interesting for men who find it hard to understand women. Many think that women's logic doesn't exist, but it does, and predicting women is much simpler than it seems. A woman's soul to a man is like a pharaoh's tomb. Very interesting, but full of traps and incomprehensible hieroglyphs. Men don't understand the nature of female emotions, what she feels, how she reasons, and why she suddenly pulls away. That's why it seems like a woman can unexpectedly fall out of love and declare without reason, "We need to break up." The whole complexity lies in the fact that women and men have different emotional natures and different rules for how they operate. To predict a woman like an ancient oracle, you need to understand the principles by which her emotions arise and disappear. Let's start with something obvious, yet men often forget about it. A woman cannot love from a position of strength. Simple observation. As long as you're proud, independent, and important, she loves you, adores you, and you have many plans. But then something unpleasant happens. You face a crisis at work or a health issue. You're down, weakened. Initially, the girl offers some help, but after a couple of months, you realize she's distancing herself, that the closeness you once had is gone, and soon the girl completely cools off and leaves. You know what's most interesting? Sometimes, especially when a woman is arrogant, she might help you, then genuinely think, "Oh, I'm such a good person." She helps just enough to consider herself a good, decent woman, and then she thinks, "If I'm so good, why am I with him? I deserve better." You see, right, how sometimes terrible things happen under the guise of virtue. For a man, such a situation is a slap in the face, a betrayal in the most difficult life situation, which was a test of your relationship's strength. But for a woman, it works differently. She doesn't consider herself a traitor. In such circumstances, she doesn't even connect your crisis with her desire to leave. A woman doesn't analyze the circumstances of your breakup for at least one reason. It's simply not beneficial. If she understands the essence of her actions, she'll have to do something about it, something against her own emotions. To avoid suffering, a woman simply makes a deal with herself. That is, she invents that it's not about the crisis, not about your lost dominance, but about you becoming inattentive, snapping at her twice, and generally not growing. So, a girl grabs the first convenient excuse, as if she were rushing to buy a carton of milk at the store, and started sweeping everything off the shelf without checking the expiration date. In general, we're left with only two relationship scenarios. The first is temporary relationships that will end at the first serious crisis on your part. This scenario will happen with 97% of women. What's the solution? Just be prepared for it. Don't look for a strategic ally in her. Don't expect her to rush to your rescue and stay with you till the end in difficult life stories or circumstances. A man shouldn't rely on her, and then for some time things might even be good with her. The second option is to choose those 3% of women capable of absolute, unprofitable, even somewhat self-sacrificing love. Identifying such a woman without extensive experience is, understandably, impossible. It's like choosing electronics. The description has pretty numbers, there's a warranty and a stated service life, but in the end, even well-known brands fail and break. To choose a truly reliable option, you need serious life experience and, let's say, a deep understanding of the subject. Let's move on. The second factor important for understanding women is their tendency towards dramatization. You've noticed, right, how a girl might shed a tear while watching Titanic. You might find such behavior amusing, or perhaps somewhat meaningless, but for many women, drama is like air. That's why in life, it often happens that everything seems fine, and then a small mishap turns into a catastrophe. Something in your behavior offended her, and she's already deeply hurt. This is the love for drama. A man must understand this tendency and not rush to calm his beloved at all costs every time. This is not just pointless, but harmful. She genuinely wants to experience these feelings. If you react to these performances or feel guilty every time, you'll show that you're vulnerable to it. As soon as she sees this vulnerability in you, her interest in a relationship with you will fade. And the point is, a man who rushes to coddle, soothe, and try to mend the relationship at every little squeak actually doesn't give her what she wants. She wants dramatization, but you don't provide it because you immediately ran to her. That's the essence of it. At the same time, love from a position of strength is possible for a man, while dramatization, in turn, is unacceptable. If a man falls into a drama scenario, it will be unrequited love, suffering over exes, missed opportunities, or even worse, a general dramatization scenario. That is, you will break up 2, 5, 10 times. You will think that this is a story of great love against all odds, that there are reasons, circumstances that separate you, friends. In short, you'll invent reasons. But you get back together against all odds, like characters in a Mexican soap opera. But there's no beauty in this. In reality, it's absolute crap, and you'll end up with serious psychological and health damage, losing the ability to build healthy relationships in the future. It's important to understand that men get hooked on such scenarios. Many men have reached out in situations where it seems they realize they shouldn't do it, but they can't help their desire, or even if the story has ended, they complain that they can no longer feel emotions for others, that they are internally empty and nothing moves them. These are the classic consequences of such relationships. They don't pass without a trace. Even a man's own inclinations become warped, and he simply becomes incapable of a healthy scenario. What is the classic scenario for making decisions in a couple? Compromise. It seems that often a man overestimates a woman's conscientiousness and rationality. He seeks agreements with her and sometimes does what she thinks is best. The woman begins to decide how they should live, where to work, how to spend money, when to start a family, whether to get married, which city to move to or not to move to. A year or two passes in such a relationship, and she suddenly declares, "No, this doesn't suit me. Everything is bad. Let's do something different. I've changed my mind." The man is indignant, surprised. "But we agreed. I did what we agreed on, what you said." But the woman doesn't feel the need to adhere to what she said a year ago. She replies, "Hey, that was then, and now everything is different. Everything is otherwise, you understand?" And she presents some arguments in favor of the new conditions. The man again has a choice, to give in and agree, or to end it there. If he continues, there will be new compromises, new sudden changes, and then new partners for the woman. Seriously, the final decision can only be made by someone who is emotionally independent from the decision-making process. Therefore, a man who understands women makes all decisions himself because he has learned one truth from experience. A woman wants to depend on her partner, wants to win him over. For her, perhaps the main aspect of a relationship is emotional, which means she will always make choices based on feelings, which are one thing today and can be another tomorrow. The worst part is that every time a woman is in charge, she feels fewer and fewer emotions. The attachment weakens, and at some point, these relationships become completely uninteresting to her. They completely devalue themselves. It is extremely difficult to get rid of this feeling that some concessions on your part improve the relationship. We are afraid to admit one simple fact. The one who invests in a relationship, in a partner, will always feel more interest. We always become attached to those we care for. Therefore, the only viable relationship scenario that works is when the woman proves her worth at every stage, when she strives to show her reliability, consistency, and intention to build these very relationships. After all, nowadays, many women generally do not want to take on these constructive responsibilities and do not hide it, but men do not notice it. For example, a man says directly, "From this day on, we live together. Come on, pack your things and move in." In this case, she must prove that she is serious about the relationship. Or the woman herself, gently, not aggressively, tries to create the situation, meaning not through manipulations like, "You're not serious about me." No, she should create it differently. That is, she came over, cooked something delicious, cleaned the house. She demonstrates through actions that, with me, you'll be better off than without me. Your life will be better. And this, I repeat, should happen at every stage of your relationship. Unfortunately, all around us, we see the complete opposite. All these customs, where a man gets down on one knee with a ring and asks, "Will you marry me, or won't you?" and patiently waits for her answer. That's what we observe. The main thing is to do everything with streamers and expensively, so that the beauty likes it and the princess remembers it. And this person is going to be the leader in the relationship, meaning the head of the family. Is he going to be that after this? He is already bent to societal norms and the woman's whims, and this is at the moment of making one of the most important decisions in a relationship, perhaps even in his own life. Why does this seem normal to us? A man remembers his parents, grandparents, that they, in principle, had something similar. But there's one important nuance. Ancestors are people of a past era. When this template of relationships with reverence for women was imposed on them, they could still live with it. Back then, there was a gap between the male and female worlds. There were real reasons for a woman's dependence on the family, and it was a kind of game. A man understood his value, and the ritual was not taken so seriously, and most importantly, people's reserve of decency was sufficient for them to continue living together. As you know, most men rejoice at the moment of marriage. A wedding is the most lavish celebration for which you can borrow money and spend it in maximum quantities, and most importantly, be happy on that day. And men truly rejoice. Do you know why? The more a man rejoices at this event, the less he felt that the woman truly belonged to him, that she was loyal. That is, the less confident he is in her as a partner, the less confident he is that she is truly reliable and decent and will be with him, the more joy he feels. He has a reason to deceive himself and say, "We are together now. Now we are closer than ever, and she has confirmed the seriousness of her intentions. Now she definitely loves me, and everything will be fine." That's how it really is. And, in my observations, the most truly strong, high-quality relationships looked like they happened casually. Well, life just goes on together. Everything is wonderful. The man: "Listen, well, we probably should get married. Sign the papers." She says, "Okay, let's." Such relationships are much better, and the more lavish the wedding, the more joy, believe me, the more tears there will be later. And it always works that way. Moreover, this is a very good test for a woman. If she attaches super important significance to this, believe me, she wants nothing from you but emotions, and you will soon stop giving them to her, and another person will give them to her to a greater extent. That's all. Another example: a man who chose a woman for a relationship based on the principle of fell in love, felt something pulsating, felt something there. He has that love to the point of unconsciousness, to the point of obscuring judgment and reason, that is, absolute passion. If such a man is told by a woman one day, "Listen, I've fallen out of love with you," he again won't be able to experience sincere disappointment. He again is incapable of it. Why is that? He lives just like her. Therefore, to gain mental strength to be able to show strictness towards a woman, and this is necessary, one must be strict with oneself. One must be intolerant of one's own vices and weaknesses. This is difficult. There's little pleasure in it. But when you do it, the relationships will also change. In general, if we talk about the difference between mature relationships and childish ones, problematic and high-quality ones, in childish relationships, no one owes anything to anyone, while mature people, when they decide to be together, primarily assess what each of them is capable of giving up for the sake of good family relationships in the future. That is, a good woman is distinguished by this component, and a man who feels like a leader knows perfectly well what he is giving up. Sometimes egoism, sometimes some weaknesses, but mainly he gives up the search for pseudo-love. And when he consciously limits himself for something constructive, that's when a man gains strength, and he begins to look for a similar woman, ready for sacrifices and limitations. I hope you now understand why in relationships built on pseudo-compromises, it's almost always the woman who leaves, because a compromise can never be built 50-50. One partner will always give in more and more, abandoning their own interests. And who will give in more? Option number one, the one who is in a more dependent position. Let's say a man tried to live this way. The woman gives many more reasons for concern. No one approaches you at work, but they approach her. No one approaches you on the street, but they approach her. And if she also has some social activity, well, it's generally clear. And you'll just silently endure all of this, so as not to bring any chaos into your relationship. Moving on, a woman can be more convincing than a man in certain discussions, justifying her own position. But there's an observation. You can't just sit down, cry, and say, "You hurt me, I'm so fed up." She can allow herself to do that, and you'll go to comfort her. You'll go to make up with her in a moment of dramatization. In short, the woman is completely in the winning position here. Moreover, the one who tries to play these compromises more honestly is the one who loses. That's the vicious system. There's not a drop of sincerity in it. It's all fake. And I'm not saying that men always play more honestly, no, but a man is usually more consistent, most often. A woman can allow herself, as we've already discussed, to live a little differently, and after 6 months or a year, she can, so to speak, reset all previously existing agreements. In short, in a system of compromises, the one who can more effectively pretend to be a victim is right. When a woman pretends to be a victim, it's effective because the man rushes to comfort her. When a man pretends to be a victim, they just tell him, "You're not a man," and interest in him simply starts to decrease. Do you understand this scheme? You'll lose no matter what. And the last thing I'll say today, almost every one of us has already experienced romanticized relationships that end very painfully, and for this reason, everyone will inevitably break for a while. There will be a desire to remember those episodes, those feelings you experienced in the past, because they are incomparable to anything else. It's a completely different state when you waited for your next meeting with her, when just the reminder that you would see her already brought so much joy, when the usual daily hustle and bustle, adversities and traffic jams seemed utterly trivial compared to the emotional charge she could give you when you planned life, trips, places you should visit together. And this state of anticipation, these are very vivid, bright ideas. Why? Because she exists. When you are next to her, your stress resistance seemed to increase. You were less susceptible to worries, among other things. I could talk for a long time, but you understand what I'm saying. But you must understand a simple rule. The more a woman energizes and stimulates you, the harder you will fall. And if she emotionally stimulates you, you are on a certain emotional high. This is an unhealthy story that will end badly. And it will never work out. Don't have these illusions, don't have these fantasies that you will remain in some mutual passion for each other, and it will never end. It will end, believe me. And the whole point is that only one partner can romanticize in a relationship, but never both. If the woman romanticized first, and then you started for some reason, she will stop. A woman doesn't need a man who romanticizes their relationship, so choose. If you do it, you'll be dumped.